Good evening, everyone. I am going to call the special commission meeting for Monday, May 24th, 2021 to order. May we have the roll call, please?
Commissioner Vila Vasquez.
Present.
Commissioner King.
Excused.
Commissioner McCool.
Frozen on Zoom.
Commissioner Ramos.
Present.
Commissioner Sosa.
Here.
Vice Mayor Bradford.
Here.
And Mayor Hersberg.
Here. Now may we all please stand and pledge the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, this evening we have one item on our agenda, and that is item 4A, adoption of the City of Deltona Strategic Plan. Mr. Peters, and then Mr. Marlowe, correct?
Yes, ma'am. We're going to go straight to Mr. Marlowe.
Hello.
Night. You have a draft plan in front of you. I would not like to try to wordsmith tonight because I know y'all all like to get out of here, but if you have comments or something, please say them. Staff will be taking notes. We'll make those edits later or after the meeting if you have any. So what I'd like to do is really focus first on the vision and then on what I call the pathways to that vision. The vision is very important because if it's not aligned with what I call the needs, aspirations, and values of your community, it's not going to go anywhere. You know, it's got to be fit what your community wants. And I believe what I heard from you last Saturday and what I've heard from the community as a whole, hopefully we've captured that. So I'm going to have staff, how do I get to the next slide here? Computer is frozen here.
Hello.
There we got it. Okay.
If you want, where's the mouse? I can make it bigger. If I have the space.
All right. Give us okay. Oh, great. Thank you, Kayla. What I believe I've heard is this community no longer wants to be a bedroom community. You want to be a full community. And by that, I mean four things. One, it's obviously a place to live, and it is that now. But what I've heard from communities, we want more diversity of housing. There are folks who don't want to live in houses. They want to live in apartments, either because of their age, where they're at, et cetera. There are senior folks who will no longer like to maintain a yard and all that goes with a house. You know, they'd like to live somewhere else. There are folks who like to have large lots. There are folks who want small lots. So housing diversity is I think, a key part of being the community that you want to have. A second part of that is a place where people have jobs, where you can work. You don't have to get in your car and go across the bridge or to Daytona or somewhere. You can work here. So that's the second element, or the fourth second leg of a 4-foot stool. Third is play. Now, you have great play. I mean, y'all got great, you're getting greater. But folks also want to be able to dine out. That's kind of both nourishment, but it's entertainment. There's always retail therapy. So, you know, that's another aspect. If we think of play broadly, it's the ability to do a diverse set of things in your community. And the last is to be able to learn. You know, you'd like to either higher education, trade school, whatever. You want those features in your community. So I've tried to capture that in here. Now, I don't have the ability to make analogies as your manager does, creativity, but, you know, we talked about a gallery of villages. And that's really, I think, captures the nature of this community. You're not a traditional community that developed around downtown and grew circles out. You were planned. And so what works for y'all is this set of village centers. So we tried to capture that. That's really where you're trying to get to, a set of village centers that allow the play and the live and the work and the learn. So all those things are there. I titled this plan 2040. y'all have created a very ambitious plan. It's transformative for a community, and it will take 20 years. You know, Rome wasn't built in a day, and Deltona won't be transformed in a day. But you, as the commission, can set the direction, set the foundation, and that's a critical contribution. There will be commissions in the future that get to do the ribbon cuttings. Some of you may be there. They'll be there for the outstanding wise decisions that somebody made, you know. But, you know, you are going to lay this foundation if you choose to go forward this path. So it's an important decision to you. And I think this is, I believe, what I have here, while we can certainly wordsmith it, captures the essence of what I've heard from the community and from you. So, Mayor, I'd like to stop for a moment and have any discussion about the vision before we go to the pass.
Commissioners, if you have any discussion, feel free. No comments?
Okay, all right. So I've used the phrase pathways here, and I've used that intentionally because I'm not talking about highways that go parallel to each other. These paths intersect, they overlap at times, they bend some, and they curve, they're flexible. But all 6 paths are critical. They're none more important than the other, and they all are critical to the success of this plan. And so let me just go through them quickly. One is economic development. You know, y'all have a very good economic development strategy. You're working it. It's starting to pay off for you. Amazon's one example of that. The hospital, healthcare, all that, this is starting to happen. That plan's been in place for a while. It's being worked, but it's occurring. And there are other pieces that are coming to you. So, you know, you can feel good about your economic development strategy. It's happening. Clearly, you always have to update it because the economy's changing, the world's different. But, you know, it's something that you move forward and you continuously work on. And clearly, from our discussion, what you want from that is a city of well-paying jobs. You know, we're not trying to bring in the minimum wage industries here. You want jobs that pay well, that pay them well enough, you want to come here and work, so you're a job-centered, not a job exporter. And that has a lot of benefits for restaurants and all those other side benefits. So that's one pathway to the future. A second pathway is what I call community development and redevelopment, the gallery of villages. I believe John was able to obtain some prior work on that. And there's a lot of thought, and you know, you'll have that to work with. But this is where the frame and the palette and all those things come in. But you know, that's what this is about. It's how do you redevelop in a way that lets you really have centers where folks can go to and where each gallery is distinctive. So we talk about entryways in here. We talk about signs. We talk about banners. All those things that make the look as well as the features so that you have a real sense of the village that you live in. Pathway 3 is the Recreation City for All. I use that because y'all really are a leader in inclusive and accessible, and that's to your credit, and you want to continue that. People value it. Obviously, your ecotourism efforts, which are part of the economic development, add to the recreation for the city. But you clearly, I believe, a real leader in recreation. You just want to continue to be that. It's very popular. People like it. You know, you want to add those features as you can. Pathway 4, accurate, timely, and identifying communication, the Deltona brand. In our discussion, one of the things you talked about is you want accurate information. You always want accurate information to go out. You never want to mislead people, even unintentionally. So making sure it's accurate, making sure it's timely. You know, we want to give information what's coming up in the future, not just what happened in the past. So being timely about it. And identifying in the sense that this is Deltona. You know, where you've got your brands, your logos, whatever you choose to have, but you want that communication to folks. This is Deltona. This is the city sharing with us. So developing a communication plan using all those best practices and all those things are part of the pathway. Pathway 5, I call the learning community. You know, we had the discussion about graduate programs here. Your manager talked about some other cities and how they've done it. We've talked about vocational training, et cetera. All that's in there. You want to have those opportunities so that, you know, your young people can stay here if they want to, or people who come here for jobs have the opportunity to work on advanced degrees or advanced skills so that They bill their wages, they do that. So that's another pathway. And pathway 6 is what I call effective governance and productive government. This is the nerdy part and the boring part, but it's all the things you got to do to have a really operational, efficient government that gets work done, gets it done in an effective manner, in an efficient manner, that y'all work together and have demonstrated what I call the power of the dais, where you're providing that policy leadership. That's all in that. So, Mayor, let me pause again and see if there's any questions I can answer about the paths.
Yeah, there was, the only thing that I kind of would like to see added to the Pathway 5 was, we've got that we're working, with the colleges, but, I think it's important too that we make that extra effort with the local schools as well, the high schools and that.
Sure.
So I know we had talked about that.
You had. I'll make a modification on that one.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor.
Mayor, if I can just add, actually, Pathway 6 is really the foundation if we want everything else to be successful.
Absolutely right, Commissioner. And that Pathway 6 doesn't mean it's last, but it is the foundation one. If you do that, everything else works.
Any other comments?
Okay.
Okay, sir.
All right. Let me just begin my closing comments here. This strategic plan really represents a choice that you're putting before the community. Y'all are a new community in terms, mainly. You're not yet 50 years old, I guess, if I go by the time capsule. And certainly, there are folks who didn't think incorporation was a good idea, and they still may think incorporation wasn't a good idea. There's certainly been policy choices made in the past that if you could take them back, you would. Y'all talked about the decision not to have big boxes, Certainly there are individuals who've not held themselves to the highest professional standards. These latter two about policy choices you'd like to make and individuals who have are true of any community of any size. It's just nature of humanity. But the choice here, and it really is a choice, is do you want to stay in the past and continue living in that and refighting those battles, or do you want to move toward this future? And that's your choice, and that's the community's choice. And I think if you can continue to put that forth before the community, I believe the choice they want is clear. They want the vision. And I would encourage y'all to continually frame it that way for folks. There are really three keys to a successful strategic plan, and I'll leave you with these. One is you've got to operationalize it through your budget. If you don't tie it to your budget, if it's not in the budget, it just doesn't happen. This Wednesday, I'll be working with Camille and Marie on doing that for you, starting that process. You'll be starting your budget process, but that's one key. Second, you've got to set priorities through those budgets, and those vary by year, depending on various funding sources, a variety of things, but that's where you set priorities, really, in the budget process. All of these are important, but every year there'll be certain ones you can move quicker for a variety of reasons or get delayed for a variety of reasons. And the third is time. Folks say, oh, strategic plans set on the shelf, they never get done. Why is that? Because there wasn't time to really deal with it. Here's what I mean by that. Every day, y'all face a number of fires. It just is the nature of the business, Some are little fires, some are big fires, but whoever's raising that fire, that's the most important thing in their world. If I'm concerned about a pothole on my driveway, that's what I'm concerned about, And the challenge is, you got to have somebody to attend to those fires. That's your business, You don't want potholes. Years ago, I was doing a workshop with the City Council of Palm Coast. It was a 2-day retreat. We were doing fine. In the afternoon, we got on to potholes. We spent 2 hours talking about potholes. Public Works guy, I thought, well, we had it done. We took a break, we came back, and we talked about potholes some more. At the end of the day, I said, I'd be happy to come back tomorrow, but I don't have any more to say about potholes. I've exhausted my knowledge about them. Can we agree to move on to something else? So, what you want to be careful about, you need a system to deal with fires and you need people to deal with fires. What you don't want is your manager getting eat up with fires. And I see this happen to managers occasionally. They never have time to think strategically because they're just dealing with fire after fire after fire. And that's why strategic plans don't work. If you can make sure you've got a system and everybody manages it so that your manager can spend at least a third of his or her time on this plan, it will happen. It really will. And I say that from experience of just watching managers who've been able to do that and folks who haven't, And some of that's their personal choice. Some folks would rather deal with a fire than have to do that. But what I do want to say is I rarely do this, but I do want to comment. There are really two skills a manager needs to really execute a strategic plan. One's a mindset of strategically thinking and putting pieces together. And two is what I call systems and operational planning, to be able to actually see how all this fits and make it happen. I had not met John before this project, so I don't have any prior experience with him. He has those skill sets, he can do this for you. And I say that to you because I think you should feel very confident about this plan. You've got a manager who has those skill sets who can execute this. It's your job and his job to protect the time so that he can get it done. So I've greatly enjoyed the time with you. It's been a lot of fun, and I'm happy to answer any following questions, but thank you for the time.
A comment, Mayor, thank you. So I'm just going back to the, I'm sorry, I just caught my eye, the Pathway 6.
Yes, ma'am.
Continue to expand the professional development of staff. And I think one of the things that we're missing here is, and I know that our IT department is doing a great job in bringing more updated automation softwares and systems to the city, but I think that we need to come a little bit more up to par with automation to make the jobs easier for staff and more productive. So I think that should be added there. I think that a lot of the things that we're doing would make the job easier and the end result much better to follow through, to follow up with. Who took it, who was it assigned to, who followed up on it, what is the status, if it's finalized, who, why not, or whatever. So I think the automation piece should be also considered.
I'll add that objective.
Yeah, to make
reflect
the
that.
job more productive
Sure.
and our staff as well.
Of course.
Okay, any other comments by commissioners? Then we'll go ahead and move to the public. Is there anyone in the public that would like to speak or has filled out something?
No, Madam Mayor.
For real? Okay. We will go ahead and close the public comment portion of this. And just to be clear, Vice Mayor, we just heard what Commissioner Avila Vasquez wanted added, and you wanted added to also include
Upgraded.
the school, the high
Automation.
schools and the schools. Yes, yours
Oh,
we
I'm
got, because we
sorry.
just,
Just completed our public schools. Public schools. Yeah, not just high school.
okay, include schools. Okay, just want to write this down.
Or do we want to specify public?
No, just in, I would say in
We just
school.
want to say our schools, because we don't want to restrict it if we do get
Yeah, I
other
would say schools.
But don't
yeah.
we do that already? Don't we?
No, it's mostly colleges. It's the colleges and the STEM programs, and I didn't see like our high school, middle school, and elementary school.
Just additional vocational training
Yeah, this
options
is
and
mostly
graduate.
showing vocational.
And we do support Pine Ridge Academy and so forth. Okay. So any other comments from the commission?
I just want to say thank you.
Madam,
Thank you for including. Oh, Mrs. Vacation.
Commissioner McCool, did you want to say something?
yes, ma'am, I did. I just wanted to add in also about, when we're talking about Pathway 6 is bringing back our whiteboard, right? Because I think that sometimes it gets lost that, or what we're actually actively working on, right? I don't know that everyone reads the newsletters that come into the water bill, but I really, as a resident, like that whiteboard sitting up there with things written on and things crossed off, so that we can have a living, breathing document that, you know what I mean, that our public sees that we're working on. And I just wanted to say one of the most important things that I heard about this evening is about our city manager being so busy working in the business that he needs more time to work on the business, because we have had a lot of fires. And I just wanted to thank him for handling those. And I like this plan. I'm glad that we took the time to do this. And I just really hope that we continue with the engagement that we have. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner McCool. Any other comments?
Yeah, it was actually one more. Anybody else on the board?
No, nobody's on the board.
Okay. And I just want to reiterate, as we go through to go to the next level, we are having more participation with community, or where, can you outline where does it go from here, other than just straight to budget? How do we get to having those designated villages? I think that's going to be one of the biggest questions for everybody is, you know, where does it go from here, and how do we get to that, what happens next? Because I did read something in the letter or agenda last night about, you know, more meetings.
The best answer I can give you to that effect is when you see the budget this year, it will be a budget different than you have seen in the past. It will be complex. You know, the first budget workshop, we're going to try to kind of give you navigational tools as to how the different parts of the budget work together, because we recognize that there have been decisions made in the past with regard to where certain personnel are that adversely affect our ability to do capital projects. You know, just on the very first item on economic development, we have certain aspects of the budget that will deal specifically with economic development, not just in the CRA, but in the activity area, and, you know, trying to create the villages. We're putting money into the budget for a three-part matrix. We will identify those areas of the city that have commercial potential. And the three parts of the matrix are, you know, if the project of sufficient size to support the type project we're looking at, is the project properly zoned for what we're looking at, and are utilities in place? Right now, unfortunately, most of that matrix would be a lot of blank boxes or X's. So we have to change those blanks and X's to check marks. Give you a for instance, we spoke with a consultant last week. They're getting us a TAP authorization for Deltona Boulevard from that area from Enterprise up to near the shopping center, because that area does not currently have sewer. But we're also looking at, okay, are the lots of sufficient size? What I'm hoping to do in the budget is to put aside some money to where the city can be a partner with the private landowner to maybe purchase the adjoining property so that it can be consolidated into a viable commercial property. Prime example, go down Saxon, right across from the racetrack. Got a lot of single-family houses that when they widened Saxon, they took the entire front yard. Those are not sustainable commercial pieces of property. So it may be that we need to buy 2 or 3 of those houses on Saxon, buy 2 or 3 of the houses behind them, consolidate 6 lots in order to have a viable site for a doctor's office or a lawyer's office, or a drive-through or whatever, so we can create a vibrant commercial area. So the budget is based in large part what we have gone through in the strategic plan It is an action plan budgetarily to get us moving in the right direction. So you will see that when we start the budget workshop here in a couple weeks, 3 weeks.
Good. Okay, any other comments or questions?
Madam Mayor, I want to jump in. First of all, great work.
Thank you.
I think pathway 1 through 5 are very important. In his closing comments, he talked about our city manager, and that's why I think pathway number 6 is really the foundation to this. We have a framework, and I'm going to use your language, Mr. Peters. We have a framework, and I think we also need to allow the process to work and allow our city manager to be able to do what he needs to do. Because a lot of times I believe we become too much involved and we don't allow our city manager to do what he needs to do. And it creates a problem and it creates a challenge. And I think the best thing for all of us is allow the process to take place. We're here for a reason, and we're going to have some great conversations. And there's times to sit down with our city manager and have these conversations. But at the same time, this would be all to waste if in a month from now, again, we're going back and forth. I think our city manager has done a great job in lieu of everything, the challenges that are happening. But I think on this dais, we need to do a better job in working with our city manager, not necessarily working against our city manager. That doesn't mean you have to agree with everything, because him and I have conversations and I don't agree all the time, but I do understand his function here in the city and my function on this dais. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, and that brings me to my comments if no one else has them.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I'm so sorry. I can't see well to see when I can speak, so I apologize if I butted in.
No, go ahead.
Okay. I would like to echo what Commissioner Ramos says, because I will tell you, as a new commissioner, sometimes I get mired down in the firefighting also, and don't remember my place, don't remember my job. And I think that we need to have conversation. I am teachable and have conversation about what my job as a commissioner actually is, because I don't want to have to attend things I don't want to be a micromanager is what I'm trying to say here. And I'm trying very hard as a commissioner to strike that balance between responsible leadership and letting our city manager do what he needs to do. So, I just think that needs further work, like on my part. I don't know if any other commissioner feels that way, but that's where I'm at with that. And the second and final thing, I know that we're getting ready to close. The second and final thing I want to say is that I would just like for us to say a special prayer for the Lawhun family this evening. I've been away and I just heard about Keith's passing. So I would like for us to remember him and his family also. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anyone else before I do mine? Okay. Wonderful job, Mr. Marlowe. I think that you did a very, very good dissection of at least what was talked about on Saturday. And what I find very, very helpful are the 6 paths. The 6 paths. But what I find even more helpful is what you, sir, said, that we have a choice. We have a choice between staying in the past or moving to the future. It's one thing that you said. The other thing that you touched on, pathway number 4, the Deltona brand. Anyone want to take a guess what our brand is right now? How about I tell you? Our current brand is anger, disruption, instability, destruction of policy, living in the past, and living for gotcha moments. That is our current brand, ladies and gentlemen. So you can decide if we want to stick with that and live in the past and continue to destroy and try to redo every policy that we have. It's not to say you can't question it, you can't research it, but the continued destruction of policy, procedure, and undermining management has to end, or we just wasted whatever it is we paid you. Okay? You also said, Mr. Marlowe, that this plan is not going to be successful unless the manager and his employees have the time to execute the plan and not spend their time on fires. No truer words have been said from that podium ever, because you nailed us. Mr. Peters, how much time do you spend putting out fires as opposed to working on what you should be working on?
I would say between 40 and 50%.
So half your time is spent putting out fires. How much of that time is spent rehashing old fires? Again and again and again. Commissioner McCool mentioned the Lawhoon situation. That had to be brought back, just as one example. How many more have we brought back over and over and over again? How much time and how much effort goes into putting out a continual fire that previous managers put out that's been brought over and over again? How many more examples do you want me to have? The special magistrate situation the other day.
Ma'am, I've been in this role unofficially 6 months. You all know that I have brought policies and procedures to you for approval. Our purchasing policy, changing the old ways, the typical motion that's made instead of giving the city manager carte blanche authority to do everything. I am limited to executing an agreement and making correction for criminal's error. That is part of transparency. So, it probably would be accurate to say that 80–90% of my time is between putting out fires and dealing with, as I refer to affectionately, at the sins of our past, trying to clean things up. And it becomes very frustrating, to say the least, that as we talked about on Saturday, having a vision for the future and realizing that there's just not enough time to do those things. I got a personnel policy that's been literally sitting on my desk because I hadn't had time to get to it. And, unfortunately, what I end up doing is I come in on weekends. It's not unusual for me to work anywhere from 4 to 8 hours on a weekend just to try to get the things that I can't get to during the week. So it is extremely frustrating. I think we have collectively a vision for the future that Mr. Marlowe has done a wonderful job in putting down on paper. But I sit here right now and it looks overwhelming because I know we are doing interviews right now for a deputy city manager. As someone said to me that I can offload all these fires on the deputy, this is a person that's going to be making $130,000, $135,000. They shouldn't be putting out fires at that kind of pay. They should be helping with the vision. And so, today's not a good day to ask me because I am very frustrated, to say the least.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
And I apologize, Mr. Peters, but I'm going to ask the question because, again, we're here working on a strategic that we will vote on but will not implement. Our city manager is the one who's going to implement this with staff. So my question, in listening to your comments, Mr. Peters, of those fires then, what percentage are coming from this dais?
90.
That's a question I'm really not comfortable with. It's a high percentage.
Mr. Peters, I respect you. And one of the first things that I said when you came in here at Public Works and we had a workshop meeting up there, I said, Mr. Peters, I like the fact that you're not here to tell us what we want to hear, but you're here to tell us what we need to hear. So I'm going to ask the question again, Mr. Peters, if you don't mind. What percentage of those fires are being created by this dais?
Directly and indirectly, probably 75% of it.
So 75% of the fires that Mr. Peters is working on is because we are creating them. Yet, we have Sixth Path here. We spent time with our community. We have spent time here on a Saturday, but yet we become the individuals who get in the way. At some point in time, whether it's Mr. Peters, whether it's that deputy director, whether whomever sits there, it's going to get burnt out, if they're not burnt out by now. And my feeling is that he's burnt out, because I've never seen Mr. Peters respond to that way. I just found it curious that I wanted to know what percentage of that is being created. 75% of the fires that he is working on is because we are creating them or rehashing them, which that's the sad part about this. That's why I'm going to go to my original comment. Pathway 6 is the foundation and the most important to all this. Because if we don't get it together up here, and I mean really get it together, this is not lip service no more. I used to tell my students, don't tell me, show me. So I'm afraid to ask any other questions, because I might be in shock, or some of us might be in shock at the answers that we get from Mr. Peters. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner Ramos. And to your point, I also have never seen Mr. Peters like this, and that causes me grave concern. Because you sit up here and you look at that man. 75% of his time and weekends are spent on our fires, for want of a nicer or worse word. That's what we're paying him for, to rehash the past. We have policies, we have procedures. I have them in front of me, and I will pass them out at the next commission meeting. Robert's Rules of Order is what we follow. It is in our policies and procedures that this commission approved. We have a social media policy that every one of you sitting up here signed, and multiple of you don't abide by. Henceforth, the staff doesn't want to abide by it either. Why should they when we don't? You signed an oath, you took an oath to uphold the city of Deltona. Not your own social media, not one person that's sitting in the audience, not your neighbor, not your friend. You are to uphold the betterment of the city of Deltona as a whole. That's not to say you can't question. That's not to say that you shouldn't question. But to blow up every single thing that we've done over the years, I've been sitting up here 11 years. It's the worst I've ever seen it. The worst, and it's been bad. It's been bad. And I have to question Mr. Peters in terms of his tenacity to try to bring everything forward. And how long is this man going to last? Mr. Peters, how long are you going to last? You don't have to answer that if you don't want to. And I'm not talking about life in general. I'm talking about as our manager.
Madam Mayor, tonight's not a good night to ask me that question.
Then I will ask you not to answer that if you don't want to. However, that in itself, ladies and gentlemen, is an answer. I would like a motion and a second to approve the strategic plan.
So move.
Second.
Properly moved by Commissioner Ramos, seconded by Commissioner Avila Vasquez. Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Vila Vasquez,
Yes.
Commissioner McCool,
Yes?
Commissioner Ramos,
Yes.
Commissioner Sosa,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bradford,
Yes.
and Mayor Hersberg.
Yes, the motion passes unanimously. Now, for God's sake, get out of his way that he can implement it, because from now on, every commission meeting, I will be bringing forth the policies, the procedures, and everything else that we have here. And if we have a question on the legality of anything, there will be a recess. The item will be removed from the agenda if we don't get a legal answer. We're not doing this anymore. We are adjourned.